The biggest sports story of the year has moved forward. We're talking about the NBA media rights deal. My colleague Tom Friend joins us. He's been all over this deal. Tom, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me here.
All right, Tom. We're recording this on Tuesday. On Monday, Warner Brothers Discovery said they're going to try to match that Amazon C package of streaming rights. Where do things currently sit?
Well, they matched it or are attempting to match it. Now the ball goes back to the NBA. NBA's premise is basically that they cannot match it. It's a streaming-only package. It's an international rights package as well. And so if WBD is matching it with just Max alone, which is their best chance, that means their streaming app alone, then they have to decide whether it's equitable, meaning the NBA, if that's equitable, and Max's subscriber base is much, probably half as much as Amazon's. So that's the argument that NBA has basically, is that it's not a match in totality. The money figure to them is irrelevant, that basically this has to be a match in all aspects. And that's where the legalese is going to come in. And Bill Koenig, who's the lead negotiator for the NBA, a former litigator for Proskauer. I mean, this guy, is known for this. He's prepared for this. He wrote the language in 2002 that put matching rights in there.
I wonder if he's regretting that now, or at least not taking it out in 2014.
Well, in 2014, they almost did. In 2014, there was internal discussions. Do we take it out? But things were going good. It was a different world in 2014. It was a very fluid, seamless re-up by Turner and by ESPN. So they just didn't take it out. In retrospect, should they have? Of course.
Well, they sure did this time, at least according to reports.
And so now it's become messy, right? So that's where it is.
Well, like you said, that international reach that Prime Video has is incredible. And it's not just international. If you look at the latest Nielsen Gauge numbers about the percentage of, who's watching what platform for streaming, just in the United States, I think in June that number was around, just north of 3% for Prime Video and only around 1.2, 1.3% for Max. So just domestically, you're talking about in terms of usage, Prime Video much higher than Max and a lot of other platforms out there in terms of streaming. So, what's the big next thing that we should be looking forward to as far as this deal?
WBD, in response to that, Austin, WBD sees this, from what I'm told, sources, that this is a domestic deal. This is a U.S. rights deal, is most of it, right? And they feel like that Max is comparable. It's going to become boiled down to what's next is the NBA is going to say, no, this is not a match. And at that point, David Zaslav, the CEO of WBD, has got to decide, am I going to file a lawsuit? That's really what it boils down to. Do you want to sue a partner? You've been a 40-year partner. Do you want to send a message to future partners, perhaps?
Yeah, it's not a good look. It's a terrible look if you're suing your partners.
Really, there's people within the league who believe that this is all a facade, that David Zaslav is just trying to save face by acting like he's going to match, even though he knows he can't, or by filing a lawsuit, even though they probably won't. That's just one perspective. Maybe there's other people who think he is dogged on this. He is going to go after it. So there's two ways to look at this, but we don't know that. But as soon as he makes that decision, whether he's going to sue or not, and the NBA expects them to sue. I've been told that Adam Silver 100% expects a lawsuit. So, at that point, this could drag on, or this could be a settlement. And the settlement that WBD wants, really, I think in the heart of hearts, if you ask them, the most realistic scenario as a settlement, give us a little fourth package. Let us have Thursday nights. Let us have Shaq, Charles and Kenny and Ernie back on inside the NBA. Let's do that. I think that's their dream scenario. Not dream, but I think that's a scenario.
Well, what are the odds of that happening? Do you see that happening? Is that something that the NBA is going to allow?
No, the NBA has said basically they do not want to do that. It waters down NBC's bid and Amazon's bids and the money they've agreed to pay, right? And then the other thing is they don't want to have a whole other partner involved. That's four. They don't want to do that. Now, it's not just four, because there's Peacock and there's other things involved. So actually more than that. So I know for a fact the NBA doesn't want to do a fourth package, but maybe backed into a corner, if it's litigation or not, maybe ultimately that's the decision that gets made. I don't think that's the case, but I think that's what WBD would like down the road here.
It's tough for me to envision Warner Brothers Discovery, TNT, wanting to be that fourth of four partners after being such a solid high-level partner of the NBA's for 40 years. I don't see them being that fourth of four. I think they would rather just be out. Let's move on. Let's see what other packages are out there. There are some big media rights deals still out there. You got the UFC coming up. That's a very young male demo, something they can also maybe put on Max. Without the NBA would be key players for that sort of thing in a universe where, it doesn't work out with the NBA on TNT.
Fourth package, again, it's not likely. I don't think it's something that we should really take that seriously. But you're talking about
it's a hypothetical. It's a hypothetical we have to consider.
I think they should consider it because if we keep them in the ball game there, the rights fees wouldn't be all that high if it's one night, right?
Yeah, much less than that B package that NBC took, yeah.
Right, but I also think that down the road here, some optimism is the M&A possibilities, the merger and acquisition possibility with Paramount Plus. They could potentially merge there, and then their prospects look better in other avenues, so maybe it's not as dire of them losing the NBA. There's other ways to go for them. As far as the NBA is concerned, this is a streaming future. They're going to have Peacock, they're going to have Amazon, and they see it as the future. And so I don't see them wavering. They want Amazon, $1 trillion company. They want them. They want them, and they're not going to back away from that.
Also caught up in this is the WNBA, which is a part of those ESPN, NBC, Amazon deals. That was recently signed. I think it was around $2.2 billion annually.
They're still going to have more negotiations with maybe an Ion and with a CBS. So it could be 2.2 plus another 60 million, potentially more.
But there was some crowing out there that, the WNBA maybe could have gotten some more out there. Do you think that WNBA was able to maximize what they could get this go around?
I think they did. And I think that you have to understand it's a 40-game season. It's 4 months out of the year. It's not the NBA. It's not equitable. You can't compare it to the NBA. It is. I'd rather watch it right now sometimes. Like you said, you reported WNBA All-Star Game through the roof.
Yeah, third best telecast all time for that league, behind only the opening weekend in '97.
So in terms of entertainment value, that was the best All-Star Game of the year. I don't think there's any game that compared to it. But what I mean by the WNBA getting a good deal, like I said before, they're a 40-game season. They did relatively well. And, look, Amazon's bid is actually 1.95 roughly because of the WNBA. The NBA overall deal is $77 billion. It's been reported 76. It's really $77 billion when you add in the WNBA numbers, because that's all part of it. Amazon's package includes the WNBA. So it's a $77 billion bid, and the WNBA is why it's so high. They sweetened it.
Yeah, the NBA did a really good job negotiating this. Clearly, you have people just fighting tooth and nail to be part of it. The WNBA did get a solid increase. It was smart to stick with the NBA and be part of those talks. And I know this is an 11-year deal with the WNBA, but I wouldn't be surprised if there is some sort of look-in down the road. And maybe we can say, wow, this Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese rivalry, and plus we have big names coming in Juju Watkins. If they can grow those numbers, down the road there may be a look in, and maybe you do get some more money.
It's a 3-year look. So basically after 3 years, there's a good faith. We're going to relook at, renegotiate potentially. So this can all change in 3 years. That's the other upside of the WNBA deal. Ion and CBS is still involved.
And you talked about the length of the season, Tom. It's really tough to grow the length of the WNBA season. You can't grow it on the front end. These players are already coming right off of the NCAA season right into WNBA season. I don't know that Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese have had any sort of break since they come in here. And on the backside, if you're extending a little longer, then you're talking about going up against football season, and we've seen what happens when you put the WNBA finals up against football. It just gets hammered there on those Sunday afternoons that they've had in recent years.
But I will tell you that, really, they grew their deal by 6 times. The NBA deal by 3 times, but the WNBA by 6 times. You can't beat that, right? So, and then, the whole Caitlin Clark phenomenon is not going to end. As long as she stays healthy, in coming years, it's going to grow and grow and grow. So that's a partner the NBA has. David Stern's foresight on that is amazing. That was his baby, and it turned out, right?
Well, a lot left to untangle with this NBA deal. A lot of lawyers probably billing a lot of hours right now. And I know Adam Silver and David Zaslav are both going to be in Paris for the Olympics. We'll see if they maybe run into each other, have some sort of backroom conversation. But a lot left to unravel with this deal. Tom Friend, we know you're going to be on top of it all. Appreciate you joining the Sports Media Podcast.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
We're just a couple of days out now from the opening ceremony of the Paris Olympics. Feels like it's been forever in the build up to these games. And who better to come in and talk about it? Missy Franklin, 5-time gold medal winning U.S. swimmer and now correspondent at these games for Yahoo Sports. Missy, thank you so much for joining the pod.
Of course. Thank you guys so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here before we jet off to France.
Well, how excited are you for these games? Obviously, these are the first Olympics in around 6 years that we'll actually have fans back in the stands. How much are you looking forward to what Paris is going to deliver?
I am so excited, but more than anything, as you just mentioned, I'm so excited for the athletes. I think to have an Olympics back after, especially for the Summer Olympics after Tokyo, which I know they still did their best to put on an incredible games, but I think it was really hard for the athletes in particular not to have their family and friends there. So now that they get to experience that again, some of them for the first time, I think it's just going to mean the world to them. I think Paris is going to do an incredible job. Everything already seems so organized, so in place for both the athletes and the spectators. It's a beautiful city to begin with, and I think it's just going to be a really incredible few weeks for the Olympics and then also for the Paralympics afterwards.
What can we expect from you in your role with Yahoo Sports?
So I'm so excited. This is the first time I'm going to an Olympics and not competing. So I think it might be slightly more less pressure than I'm used to, but I still want to do an excellent job as a correspondent. So still a little bit of pressure, but Yahoo has been incredible to work with so far. Katie Hoff and I worked with them throughout Olympic trials as well with swimming and just had the best experience and the best time doing that. So we're so excited to get the opportunity to do it in Paris. I think what Katie and I really want to bring to the table is just an inside look at what it's like. We want you guys to feel like you're in Paris with us, really experiencing it. And we're just going to give a lot of oversight. I think our goal is that we're going to be talking to you like you have not been swimming for the last 2 decades of your life, like Katie and I have. We want to make it very easy to understand, very straightforward, and especially we know there's a lot going on. So I hope this isn't the case, but just in case you do miss a swimming session, hopefully Katie and I will be able to recap it very easily for everyone so that it's a good place to come and just get that quick snippet of news so you feel like you're staying up to track with everything.
Well, I know people are like me. I'm listening to podcasts, I feel like all day long these days, whether it's at work or working out, and there's so much good content out there. Very much looking forward to hearing what you're going to be providing with Katie from Paris on that front.
Thank you.
Speaking of swimming at these Paris Olympics, who do you now see as the faces of USA swimming?
I think it's a really fun team because, as per usual, we have a great mix of veterans that have so much experience and that already have accomplished so much within the sport, and then some awesome and fun new names that are coming up. So I think in terms of veterans, obviously Katie Ledecky. I think this game she's going to cement herself as truly the greatest of all time. She's 1 medal away from Jenny Thompson's record of 12.
That's high praise coming from you. That's extremely high praise.
It's very true. It's very true. And, I think she's going to do that. So it's going to be a really iconic and history-making Olympics, I believe, for Katie Ledecky. And then on the men's side, we've got Ryan Murphy. He's coming back for his 3rd games, and he's cemented himself as one of the best not only backstrokers, but just swimmers in the history of the U.S. as well. So I think seeing him there is going to be amazing. They've also both been named captains of the team naturally and very exciting. So those two, I think Caleb Dressel is a name that everyone's very familiar with after Tokyo. And he's had a really interesting journey. He took a lot of time off from the sport in between, which isn't exactly normal, but it's being normalized, which I love. And I'm so thankful for that. So he's been a huge voice of I needed to take time off and I took time off. And now he's back. And I think seeing him make the team, he's now a dad. He has a little boy, August, who's the sweetest thing in the world, but he's really incredible. He's in great shape. He's peaking at just the right time. So I think he's going to be amazing. And then new names, I would say on the girls' side, Gretchen Walsh and Kate Douglas are 2 to really look out for. Gretchen and Alex Walsh are actually sisters, and they're both on the team this year. Alex made it in Tokyo, but Gretchen didn't. But they finally made the team together, which is so exciting. We have another sibling duo, the Shackles, Alex and Aaron, which is really fun. And then I think for the men, there's someone named Chris Giuliano, and he has qualified in the 50, the 100, and the 200 freestyle. And no male has done that since Matt Biondi. So I just think that already speaks so much about him and what he's going to accomplish. But So much to look forward to. I'm already geeking out about it. I cannot wait to watch fast swimming.
How real is the rivalry with Australia? Is that just the media contriving something, or is that something that viewers are really going to feel when they watch swimming coverage?
It's a little bit of both. And the only reason I say that is because there's absolutely a rivalry. And we're really going to see that, especially with the mid distance freestyles. So 200, 400 freestyle, Ariane Titmus, Molly Callahan, Katie Ledecky. There's going to be a lot there in terms of, I mean, they are always been our toughest competitor. So there's going to be a lot there to watch. Regan Smith, obviously, in backstroke, and Kaylee McEwen. Those two have been swapping world records like they're candy for the last like 4 to 6 years. So I think seeing them compete, I think Regan is going to have a phenomenal meet. She looks so good at trials. So I think she's going to take the 100, but I think Kaylee's really going to push her in the 200, which will be so fun to see. But the reason I say both is that there's absolutely a rivalry. It's very competitive, but it's very friendly. And I think the media is making it into something that seems unfriendly. And there have been some comments made by one Australian swimmer that weren't necessarily kind, but they're the opinions of one swimmer who isn't even on this Olympic team. So I just want people to know that, yes, it's an intense rivalry. They're our toughest competition, but competition is what makes us the best versions of ourselves. We're not going to go out there and swim the fastest we've ever swam without other athletes pushing us to do so. So a lot of these athletes know each other. They've trained together. They're good friends. So yes, it's very competitive, but it's also very friendly.
Is that something that drove you? I mean, how many world records might you have set if you were still doing this?
Absolutely, 100%. And I always say that, like, if I got out there and I was swimming in a pool by myself, there was no way that I was going even close to a best time. Like, I think we really need to have this healthy respect and appreciation for our competitors because, yes, it adds pressure and it adds intensity, but it also makes us the best. When they're right there pushing us every single step of the way, we're not going to achieve what we're capable of without that competition around us. So I think always having belief and confidence in yourself while also maintaining respect and appreciation for those around you. It's a really important balance to have in elite sport.
Missy, you've been to a number of opening ceremonies. One of the biggest changes, obviously, with Paris is that the athletes are going to be sailing up the Seine versus that traditional walk into a stadium. I mean, as an athlete, would that bother you at all that you're not going to do what so many athletes before you have done with that opening ceremony?
I don't think so. I think it's really fun that they're doing something different and is so unique to Paris. Like, I think it's a beautiful way to really see, like, we're here. This is Paris. There's nowhere else where we can do something like this.
It is unique. It is going to be beautiful.
Exactly. I think it's going to be really special. And to be honest, as swimmers, we normally don't get to do opening ceremonies because our events start the very next day. So the other part about it that I love for the athletes is people don't realize how much physicality there is in an opening and closing ceremony in terms of walking and standing and being on your feet. So for some of these athletes, I actually think from a physical standpoint, it's going to be a lot easier for them just being on a barge floating down the river as opposed to like walking literal miles
Kind of
and then
just chill.
standing in the middle of a
Yeah.
stadium for like hours on hours. So I think that actually is going to be something they're really going to appreciate as well.
We had NBC's Dan Hicks on this podcast last week just talking about how swimming sets the tone for the audience around the Olympics, it being in the first week. Is it that same sort of feel for Team USA athletes on the ground?
Absolutely. Yeah. There is so much excitement right now. I think I've been seeing all of the social posts. A lot of the teams are starting to get there and they're starting to go through processing, which if you could imagine like the shopping spree of your dreams, like that is what processing is like. I mean, you get your opening outfits, your closing ceremony outfits, you get your rings, and then you just get all your Nike, all your Ralph Lauren. And it is like, and it's all just blinged out with USA and Olympic team and just, it's amazing. And it really makes it real that like you are doing something so much bigger than yourself and you've made it to the Olympics and you're about to go out and represent your country on the greatest stage of sports. And it is just, there's so much excitement. I think the nerves kind of start to kick in once you get into the village and get settled and you're like, oh, I'm actually here to swim. Like this is real. And you get to the venue for the first time and see it. But more than anything, I think these athletes right now are just so excited.
I'm sure being in Paris won't have any impact on the athletes as well. Nothing to see here.
No, absolutely not.
Missy, you were also on the ground in Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium, the first time that the U.S. Olympic swimming trials were at an NFL stadium. What was it like having that event at such a large venue, and is it ever going back to something smaller?
Yeah, I think after that, it would be really hard to go back. And just massive credit to USA Swimming and everyone that was involved. I think they realized that if we want to bring the attention to the sport that we want to bring, we have to be doing things like this. So Lucas Oil and Indy just embraced us with open arms and open hearts. I mean, we took over that city. We were at
Yeah.
the airports, we were downtown, like they named the streets
Not to
after us.
mention Missy Franklin Way
It
in
was
Indianapolis.
wild. It was so cool. But like, what a better way to make us just feel so special and so appreciated. And I know the athletes really, really enjoyed it. So they did a phenomenal job, hit a world record for the most amount of spectators ever at an indoor swim meet at like a little over 22,000, which was wild. And I think it was so fun because during trials, we found out that in LA, they'll be planning to host the pool and the swimming in SoFi Stadium.
That's right.
So now we know that like we've done it, we can do it again, but we also know how special it is. So I really hope we continue down that path in the future. If anything, it's so fun for the athletes, but it also brings a lot of really great attention to our sport.
So is the Olympic Village as crazy for athletes as everyone hears and us as writers see sometimes, the ones who aren't on the ground? And do you have a favorite story from your time in the Olympic Villages?
Yeah. So again, I think it's one of those things that maybe gets like a tiny bit exaggerated. But it's just such a fun time. I do think that, it depends on you and your personality and your events and all of that stuff. And, the kind of time that you want to have while you're there. I was very young at both of my Olympics, so I don't think I experienced a lot of some of the things that you might hear.
It's fair.
But it was incredible to just walk around knowing that you're literally surrounded by the best in the world at what they do. And my favorite village memory was actually from London in 2012, and we were sitting in the food court, the cafeteria, which was incredible. It had like stations of food from all over the world, so everyone could eat something that they were familiar with and used to. And we were sitting there for lunch one day, and everyone just stood up and started clapping. And we didn't really know why. So like we got up and started clapping too, because we didn't want to be rude, even though we didn't know what we were clapping for. And then we saw what it was, and Usain Bolt had just walked into the cafeteria, and every athlete in there stood up and gave him a standing ovation. And
Deservedly so.
That's
Yeah.
so powerful, because in my mind, I was like, this is the Olympic spirit. Like, this is what the Olympics are all about. Like, yes, we're rooting for our country and we want them to do their best, but it's also just like recognizing greatness and like the work that these athletes have put in. And so here Usain has every of the best athletes in the world at what they do standing up and recognizing him for his achievements. And I still get goosebumps talking about it, because like that is the Olympics.
Well, after those London 2012 games, you turned down a bunch of commercial opportunities so you can go swim at Cal. You had a bunch of NCAA championships. Welcome to the ACC, by the way, as a
Thank
Georgia
you.
Tech alum.
Yeah, still sounds weird. It's wild.
I know. But like, how important and how great has it been for this new era of name, image, and likeness, so that these young Olympians coming off of success at these games can now take advantage of that and have that college experience?
It's so important. I would be lying if I said I wasn't a little bit envious. That was one of the hardest decisions I ever had to make in my life, was, do I turn professional and actually monetize the work that I've put in my entire life, or do I swim in college? And I hated having to make that decision. And I am so, so glad that no one will ever have to make that decision again, because there's no reason why you shouldn't have both. And I think these athletes work so hard that they should absolutely be able to monetize their own name, their own image, their own likeness. Like it just in my mind seems so fair. I think it is going to change things a little bit. So we do need to recognize that there may be a shift in cultures, and, it will change the athlete's point of view as well. I think when your sport becomes your job, there is a mental shift that happens there no matter what level you're at. So I think as long as we're prepared for some of the changes that come with it, overall, I think it's a great thing. And I'm still pretty bitter that I had to send back my Justin Bieber care package that I got, because it would have made me ineligible to swim at Cal.
Crazy talk. What you and Jeremy Bloom before you had to go. It's good to see that athletes like Sunisa Lee, when she won the gymnastics gold, she was able to go compete at Auburn, have that college experience. Like you said, I do think it's a win for these athletes in the long term.
Absolutely.
All right, little lightning round, quick hitter sort of things for you here, Missy. You're
do
a
it.
Colorado native. Who's your favorite Broncos player all time?
Oh, Demarius Thomas.
Baby.
And rest in peace. But my email has 88 in it, because he was always my absolute favorite. Very closely followed by Peyton Manning.
Do you have a favorite non-swimming Olympic moment from your games?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I think one of the really fun moments is speaking of other sports. So the basketball team that doesn't stay in the village because their venues are kind of all over and they're pretty far away. But at least for both 2012 and Rio, the men's basketball team came into the village to the USA House to meet all the other athletes and spend time with them. So getting to meet Kobe, getting to meet LeBron, like having those experiences was really amazing. And I thought it was really kind of them to kind of make an appearance and come into the village and see the rest of the athletes. I really appreciated that, and I know a lot of us did.
You mentioned the podcast that you do with Katie Hoff, Unfiltered Water. Do you have anybody at the top of your bucket list for a guest?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. I mean, obviously Simone Biles. We would love to have Simone on the podcast. Caitlin Clark is a close second, and then probably Sha'Carri and Noah. I think this summer is going to be so fun watching them. But our dream list is very long.
That's fair. Can a pro swimming circuit make it in non-Olympic years?
I think we have to figure it out. I think it can, but it has to be done right. And we have tried in the past, and it has not worked. And I know it would be
It's a
the
tough
best for
business.
the
It's a tough
sport.
business in
It's
non-Olympic
a
years.
very tough business, but I think it's what would be best for the sport, but more importantly, the athletes. As we mentioned, every 4 years is our bread and butter. But if you're not the top 1%, it's really hard to make a living being a professional swimmer. And so if we can give them more opportunities to put in the work and effort they're doing every single day and give them the opportunity to win prize money at championships so they can support themselves and their families, like it's a lifestyle for hood. It's a livelihood for a lot of these athletes. So I think the more opportunities we can provide them to use their talent to the best of their ability would be amazing. I just think logistically we need to figure out the best way to do it.
Do you have a favorite pool, venue, natatorium that you swam in competitively?
I do, yeah. So within the United States, I would probably say it was either, oh gosh, honestly, I'd have to say University of Texas. Austin is one of my favorite pools. I absolutely love it. And then there's another one in Indianapolis called IUPUI. And that was a great one for me. I always swam really fast there, which is always an indicator on whether or not you like or don't like the pool.
Shocker how that works. Shocking.
Yeah, right? And then internationally, there's actually this little pool in Barcelona that we would go to for the Mare Nostrum series, and it had like a retractable roof, so you'd be swimming under the Barcelona sun, and there was the best gelato spot ever, like right down the corner. So you'd like leave finals and just go straight to fill yourself with gelato, and it was just the ideal situation.
All things being equal, you can put a competitive pool anywhere in the world, any venue.
Yeah.
Where would you want to swim in front of? Where would you want to put a pool?
Oh my gosh. In my mind, I can't imagine swimming in Olympics in a home crowd. So if I'm being totally honest, I think this whole SoFi situation in LA 28, like that would be my dream. I think
It's going to be a
swimming in
ruckus.
front of an American crowd at an NFL stadium is like the creme de la creme. I don't know how it's going to get better than that.
You're a Nashville resident now. Any
Yeah.
favorite spots in Music City for a meal?
Oh my gosh, I should show you my list. It's like my second child. I legit have it like categorized. There are so many different ones. All right, I'll throw off a couple. So downtown, there's a restaurant called Etch, one of my favorites. In East Nashville, a restaurant called Noku. And then in Franklin, which is fun if you're trying to get out a little bit, Colacino and Red Pony are two of my favorites down there as well.
Nice. I'm getting the approval from my producer, Reggie Walker. He very much enjoyed those answers.
Okay, good. Yay.
So, a feature film about Missy Franklin. Who plays you?
That's a great question. Jennifer Lawrence, I think. I love her. I love who she is. Her personality to me is amazing. And I feel like we would just get along really well. So Jennifer Lawrence.
I like it. All right, last question. What is the biggest thing that the Olympics, the IOC, the US, OPC, everyone involved with the Olympic movement, the biggest thing that they have to do to make the Olympics cooler for younger demographics?
Oh my gosh, that's a great question. I would say giving our athletes more opportunities to be marketable with brands that are really resonating with younger audiences. I think there's iconic Olympic brands, of course, and it's great for these athletes, but I think, recognizing that these Olympic athletes are some of the greatest role models that our culture has to offer. And so I think, reaching out to companies and for companies to understand, like, you can't, in my opinion, obviously I'm a little biased, but like I couldn't imagine a better role model or ambassador for a company than an Olympic athlete. And so I think if you are a brand that's popular with younger audiences, like, get those athletes involved, help them share their story and help them connect with these younger people. Cause I think when you have that commonality and that thread, it's just a win-win situation because you're going to get the younger audience more involved, but you're also, again, going to give these athletes more opportunity to market themselves and be successful.
Well, Missy, it is an honor to have a gold medalist come on the pod. We're looking forward to all the work you're going to be doing for Yahoo Sports in Paris. Really hope you enjoy the experience. Missy Franklin, thank you for coming on the SBJ Sports Media Podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.